I don't know how many games are originally conceived as a second year student project, but this is one of them. The founding members of Munich-based developer Kaleidoscube met while studying and originally produced a vertical slice of one chapter of the game for a project submission. Always envisioned as a 5-chapter experience, they've continued to work on their labour of love and this year have completed the production to submit it as their graduation project. After teaming up with publisher Mixed Vision, the finished article is now also being released to the general public. Ask yourself, what is freedom, and can a puppet ever truly be free? Let's manipulate some marionettes and try to find out in the Xbox Era review of A Juggler's Tale. After a scene-setting introduction delivered in the style of a graphic novel, we enter the 3D side-scrolling show of a puppeteer storyteller known as Jack. Jack narrates the story of Abby, a young juggler who is held captive in a circus by a wicked ringmaster and forced to perform for crowds during the day, only to be locked alone in a cage at night. Abby soon seizes her chance to outwit her tormentor and escape her predicament, only to discover that freedom in the outside world is hard to maintain. With a group of hired bandits led by the terrifying Tonda hot on her trail, Abby must navigate a beautiful yet damaged medieval world, overcoming many obstacles and relying on the kindness of strangers, including the person playing the game, to retain her independence and gain real freedom, if there is any such thing for a puppet. To say any more about the story would spoil things, so I'll let you discover it for yourselves. I will point out though that Jack not only tells the story, but as the puppet master controls what all of the puppets are doing. If Abby does something that Jack considers to be silly, such as falling in a river, he soon pulls her out and tells her how lucky she is to have him looking after her. It quickly becomes apparent that he has an unhealthy control fixation regarding the little juggler, possibly more so than even the ringmaster himself, and when other forces such as the player begin to influence her activities, he gets more than a little bit upset. Each act starts with the curtains opening onto background scenery straight out of a puppet show. As the gameplay scrolls from left to right, at least for the first 4 acts, the graphics become a 3D environment that is a joy to behold. At the end of an act, we return to the scenery and the curtains close, just like a real puppet show. The game is described as a cinematic puzzle platformer, and it certainly lives up to that description. This is a truly beautiful graphical experience, with sections of the game world looking like live-action reproductions of landscape paintings. Butterflies can be observed fluttering above plants at one point, and a cornfield even has a murder of crows wheeling in the sky above it. These touches, like the sounds of crickets and birds in the background, don't really influence the actual game, but show that deep care and attention have gone into the environmental design of this experience. Having to navigate a calm sea that becomes a raging storm was a particularly impressive section, with the graphical and sound design being used expertly to create an immersive in-game atmosphere. Although it uses the standard tropes of a game of this type, such as walking, jumping, climbing, throwing, pushing and pulling, the thing that sets A Juggler's Tale apart is the fact that you and your pursuers have strings controlling your movement. This brings a unique aspect to the gameplay that gamers don't usually have to consider. It isn't possible to just walk under objects impeding your progress, as this causes your strings to become taut and then prevents you from going any further. This mechanic has to be considered at all times, and many of the puzzles in the game are based around this concept. Interacting with an environmental object to move the sails of a windmill, or burning a spooky tree branch to get them out of her way, are a few of the types of actions required regularly to make room for her strings and allow Abby to progress across the game world. As the story continued, it became clear that the strings of her pursuers could be used to hamstring them too, and opened up a whole new way of thinking about how to evade capture. Exploring this Brothers Grimm influenced fairy tale world is fun and involves not only platforming and puzzle solving, but also features stealth sections, heart-pounding chase sequences, trap avoidance conundrums. Puzzle difficulty is certainly on the relaxing side, but I did come across some far trickier timing-based objectives in the final third of the game. Abby is designed as a very cute marionette who kicks her heels when she's not moving, juggles when walking across some of the tightropes, and moves in such a dainty fashion at times that the line between her being a puppet and a real little girl gets seriously blurred. It is possible for Abby to die in-game, as I found out when I came across a creepy giant spider in the forest, but she merely respawns in the same place to allow her another chance to progress. The quality of the voice acting should also be given a special mention, as Jack changes over the course of the story. From an overconfident, creepy uncle type of vibe initially, the actor's performance completely changes until he becomes an almost psychotic spurned maniac in Act 4, raging against the injustice of his situation. I don't think I've ever listened so closely to what a narrator is saying before. The musical soundtrack is also lovingly crafted and pays homage not only to the folk and medieval music of the time, but also to stage shows and cinematic scores. There's even a song written especially for Tonda and his gang to sing whilst they troop back to camp at the end of the day, which is another example of how much of a labour of love this project has been for the development team. It's a fairly short experience, having been designed to play over 2 to 3 hours, but it's also perfectly formed within this timescale, so you don't feel cheated by the game length. The developer considers this game to be for fans of Limbo, Inside and Little Nightmares, so if you enjoyed those games, you'll know what to expect here, apart from the freaky ending of Inside, which still makes me shiver years later. In terms of accessibility options, there's nothing really special available here, but coming from such a small development team, that's not too unusual. I did come across 2 glitches that broke the game for me in my playthrough, which both involved falling onto certain surfaces at certain times, but I just restarted the game and was able to continue. I have reported these to the developer so they are aware, and hopefully they'll be patched as soon as possible. In conclusion, A Juggler's Tale is a compact but perfectly formed cinematic experience. It's beautiful to look at, it's got an immersive atmosphere with a level of detail that pulls you into its world. The focus here is on story, with the game being pretty relaxing to play for the most part. It also offers a unique gameplay mechanic in the form of puppets on strings, limiting their traversal options within a puzzle platformer environment. At only $12.99, this tale of empowerment and hope is well worth investigating. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and hey, ring that notification bell so that we can let you know when we've dropped some fresh content. And we'll see you next time.